There is, according to Maile Andrade, a Hawaiian customary practitioner and scholar, no word in the Hawaiian language for art. Given the widely acknowledged skill in the creation of material culture, one might argue that the Hawaiian world is imbued with beauty and artistry in every facet of life, and not as something aestheticized out and separated from function, as through the imposition of alien categories such as, again, art and artifact. Hawaiians, for example, do have words such as waiwai, which translates roughly as goods or valuables, makamai, precious, and waiwai ali'i, chiefly valuables. But do these equate to an artifact, a term which carries problematic, that is, Euro-Americentric theoretical baggage? Kamalu Dupre, assistant collection manager at Bishop Museum and my constant interlocutor throughout the research, suggests that Olelo Hawaii, or the Hawaiian language, offers with Hana no Eao Kahiko, another term that translates literally as skillfully created ancient works. Dupre's emphasizes that while these pieces of skilled work have been commonly re-identified by anthropological others as artifacts and ethnographic material culture, for Hawaiian people, they have remained imbued with mana as material manifestations of their kupuna or ancestors, or the kupuna themselves. This cultural reality is further reflected in the word mea, which can refer to both people and things, thus collapsing the common Euro-Americentric dichotomy between subject and object. At the same time, Kamalu highlights the conscious dimension of a past being present, being future, since according to her, you're constantly negotiating past identities with present identities. The key question to be addressed by Kamalu while looking after the material manifestation of this dialogue at Bishop Museum then becomes, how can I show this thing respect that it's not just a thing? The times we live in, she further asserts, releases us from certain practices, but it doesn't release me from acknowledging that history.
Nowadays, one of the most vibrant and dynamic places in Mexico City, particularly, which is the city where I live now, is the museum, the National Museum of Popular Cultures. And here, popular culture is like an umbrella concept that absorbs and encompasses both mestizo art forms, or traditional art forms, urban, poor, mestizo art forms, as well as indigenous creations. But the museum has a lot of issues, and again, it focuses on canonical pieces of art and always portrays indigenous art form as tradition. Right, it is the main idea behind popular cultures. What sort of anchors this idea is that indigenous people are basically remnants of the past. So this is something that I picked up.
I should say before I begin that if there is one thing I have learned in my study of time, it is that it is like banana peel, slippery and liable to cause arguments. Time and space are fundamental constituents of experience, mediums in which humans live their lives and which make each other evident. Time is presented through changes within space, and space exists within experience due to duration and memory. All locations are what I would term geochronic, that is, saturated with both materiality and temporality. And this is why when I speak of museums, or indeed of any culturalised site, I use Barbara Adams' phrase, timescape. When we look at the etymology of scape, we see that it means to shape.
Looking back over the past 30 years, the digital revolution marks a crucial watershed in the history of museums, speeding up and complexifying their operations in comparison with the pre-digital era, when they did things differently. This speeding up, or question of velocity, is central to the discussion of museum temporalities, whether at the level of structures or at the level of agency, both professional and public. Digitalization has impacted collection management, documentation, administration, periodicity of conservation and storage, and also research. Digitalized collection records allow discoveries to be made, and websites facilitate comprehensive and accessible information and access at the click of a mouse. Social media allow people to interact with museums as part of their Facebook circle, and so on. The speeding up process is not, however, limited to digitalization of collection management. It has impacted architectural and design processes too.
So what I want to talk about is how do we judge distances between the past and the present, and why does it sometimes feel like nothing has changed at all, and at the same time, sometimes it feels like nothing happened, and sometimes it feels like nothing is the way it was. Are we talking about the same nothing for each of those experiences of historical consciousness? How far away is then from now? So needing happens in the present, and yet we tend to leave out that emotional valence when we think about judging the distance. For museums, this represents a complicated task of how to be in the present while representing or representing the past, bringing the past into the present. Like Wayne, I Googled some stuff on temporality in the museum, and I found a really interesting article by Jean-Paul Martinon. It's from 2006. It's called Museums and Restlessness. And he provocatively suggested that museums have no future. They have only presence, in which they are constantly remaking themselves. I'm really proud of my student, Gabe Dale. He's a history major and astronomy minor, and he was doing an internship at the University of Arizona Museum of Art. And this is what he decided to do for his internship. He was measuring light years. So he says, while the name might lead you to believe that a light year is a measure of time, it's actually a measure of distance. It is the distance that light travels in 1 year. The purpose of this exhibit is to consider our place in the universe using art history as a reference point. Throughout these galleries, so these are a permanent exhibition at the University of Arizona Museum of Art. He says, I've displayed astronomical objects that are roughly as many light years away as select works from the Museum of Art permanent collection are old. So for example, if you were to go out tonight and look at the Helix Nebula, the light you would see would have left this star at roughly the same time that Pacino di Bonaguida painted the tabernacle with scenes from the life of Christ, or the Aztecs founded Tenochtitlan in today's Mexico City. Or to bring things closer to home, what is the distance of the sun from the earth as measured in light minutes? The light leaving the sun is at this very moment won't reach the earth for about 8 minutes, which is roughly the playing time of Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven. All right, so here's how he did it.
A neighbor passing by on his bike stopped, and without being asked or provoked, he confided to me, not knowing who I was, do you know, mister, that it's all stolen goods in this museum? Whenever a museum or a museum institution is confronted by this layered collection, layered in time, layered in values, it should make transparent at least 4 things. The physical facts, whatever facts are. Height, width, measures, where it comes from, what date it is. Second, what was the original purpose of its production? We call that first context, primary context. Second, why did it enter ever into a museum collection? Which I call the intention of first museological use, the process of musealization. And then you can leave as many steps, or put as many steps in between, because the longer you wait, the more in between steps there will be. But in the end, there must be a legitimization of its actual context. Why is it now where you see it? And what moral, political, societal issues are there to address? If you don't do that, you are not doing justice to your own intelligence and that of your audience. This paradigm shift or paradigm jump or paradigm dive in which you forget how to express yourself in the terms of the previous one is part of an absolutely fascinating for me, new field of inquiry. It's the memory studies and then the forgetting side of it. And I just quote 2 amazing authors, Paul Connaughton, late 90s, wrote a book, How Societies Remember, forgetting as a way of dealing by societies with various parts of their pasts. And the annulment, or the paradigm shift in this 7-tier system of forgetting by Paul Connaughton is precisely the paradigm shift as I was talking about. It's also a gift, the paradigm shift, because you don't have to remember what other people did outside of your paradigm. We don't know anymore that Isaac Newton, wrote more on alchemy than on science. We just forget it because it doesn't fit and we don't understand it.